All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. A few things came up that whatever. See how far we get. One is I'm not going to get political here because normally we never speak about politics, but I do want to mention one thing. And that is that most people aware, been a bunch of really horrific terror attacks here, and a number of people have been killed. But yesterday, I mean, not to downplay that, but yesterday, or I guess last night, some, we'll call them settlers for lack of a better term, whatever, people live near this area where one of these attacks occurred, and they went in and whatever, did a lot of damage, caused a tremendous amount of damage to, Arab property, i.e. destroying, burning down people's houses, different things. So I want to make clear, well, some people calling them terrorists, kind of ironic. Real terrorists, they don't necessarily call terrorists. Okay. Right. People call them freedom fighters, other things, but we're not going to get into politics. Point is, these people went in and caused considerable damage. Now let's understand, what's going on here. You have Arabs that are killing people. You have their own people, whoever's doing it, getting paid by the Arabs themselves, families being paid, which makes no sense, no sense at all. And, people are aggravated. This is going on. And, very hard to stop. Right, in many ways, no matter how good your defense is, again, without going into all that. But what's the point? The point is just because this is going on, does not give the right for anyone to cause them damage. Not a question of turning the other cheek. We don't believe in turning the other cheek. Right? That's for the Christians. Christians can believe in turning the other cheek. Right? But also, there's an idea not allowed to cause damage to someone's property, regardless of what they've done. Right? See, some people sort of forget that. And they'll say, we have a right to do that. Look what they did to us. Yeah, first of all, that's taking revenge, Torah prohibition. 100% of Torah prohibition. Second thing is, who gives them a right to damage property? I'm not saying you should be sitting ducks. I'm not saying what they're doing is right by any stretch. Just like my Rebbe would say many times, people want to protest against government for things they do, you're allowed to protest. Nobody disagrees. You're allowed to protest. I mean, some will say, there are many rabbinic authorities say that protesting doesn't do anything. And that's not the way to do it. Okay. There are big rabbis that say such a thing. Others say that, no, you got to protest. You got to show things are wrong, even if no one's going to listen. It depends where, what, when, how. Doesn't matter. But Rabbi will say you have the right to protest. There are times to be obligated to protest, but there's a caveat. What's the caveat over here? The caveat is you're not allowed to damage property. Now, even if you hold, there's a whole question. The land of Israel itself doesn't have the status of what we call Dina da Malchusa Dina, the law of the land. There's a whole discussion. Talmud brings out, does the land of Israel have the status of the law of the land or not? That you have to listen to the law, to what they, people in charge say, even if they don't keep Torah mitzvahs. So there's a whole discussion. There's a whole discussion whether it does or whether it doesn't. And even if you say it doesn't, in other words, government's doing things wrong, and people don't have to listen, right? Let's say. But who says, even if they don't, even if we hold there is no law of the land, you cause damage, you're going to jail, or you'll pay a fine or whatever. But who says, even in that case, you're allowed to damage property? You want to protest? You're allowed to protest. People say it's not the right way, we shouldn't do it. Okay, but you're allowed to protest when need be. Against the government. Okay, even if nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change. But Rebbe says, clear as day. Who says you're allowed to damage property? Nobody says you're allowed to damage property. People do it, doesn't mean it's right. And he said this many times. Other rabbis say a similar thing. You want to protest, even if we don't necessarily believe in protesting, or maybe it's not the right way to do things. Okay. You want to protest one thing. Who gives you the right to cause damage? Causing damage is a totally different thing. Burning people's houses down. Now, if you were to ask and say, right, somebody will point out, you have a right to defend yourself. You're right. We're not saying you don't have a right to defend yourself. In this country, it's a little bit different. Try and defend yourself, you go to jail. Different ways, right? I know of a story of somebody got attacked, car got stoned, got out, started shooting people. They had to go to, he had to report it to the police, and you're only allowed to fire your gun. I don't know if the law has changed. Right? I know years ago, you're only allowed to fire your gun in the air. That you're only allowed to do. You can't go after people, can't shoot people. If they're attacking you, you shoot them, fine, but you can't run after them necessarily. Right? According to the law. I don't know if the law has changed. But in any case, he goes to the police station and they tell him, you're not allowed to do that. You have to give over your gun. So like, come on, come take it. All right, you don't mess with these people, that live in these areas. I'm not saying they're not allowed to live in these areas. Where there can be problems. They have a right to defend themselves, not saying not. This is not defending yourself. This is going in and destroying people's property for nothing. That's not defending yourself. Person gets attacked, you have to defend yourself? Yes. You have to go in their cities and destroy property? Who says? Oh, but that's war. Who says you're allowed to? If it'd be a war, it'd be one thing. Right? And if you knew who the person who attacked you, you're allowed to go and destroy their property? Who says? Defending yourself, you're allowed to. That we're not disagreeing. But to go and destroy property, two wrongs don't make a right. Right? No question. So when you look at that, these are religious people. Or they look like religious people. Yes, of course, people are going to come out strong against them, which they did. And I think deservedly so. But I will say, I understand the anger. You feel like you're not being taken care of. And they have a right almost to do whatever they want. No repercussions. And these people are getting money for doing what they're doing. Families getting money. Wouldn't it make sense people be angry and fed up? Sure. 100%. But who says it gives them the right to do it? It's a whole different thing. You get beaten down enough, you get angry. Okay? This story years ago. Happened on Purim. That, a lot of these things were happening, nothing was being done. And there was someone in Hebron, lived in Hebron, saw enough and started shooting people, started shooting Arabs, killing people. Eventually, they subdued him and they killed him. I understand the anger. Anger is there. No one disagrees. Right? Anyone who's lived through it, anyone who goes through it, they know. They know what goes on. And a lot of this doesn't make sense, how it's being handled and whatever. Okay, but we're not going into politics. What gives them the rights to be vigilantes? and to cause damage. Don't give them the right. If you're telling me it's war, two sides, they're fighting against each other, okay. That means you can't go in and burn down their city? War is war. They're not the same thing. People will say, well, isn't it a war? It's an ongoing thing. Not the same thing, right? Not the same thing. Somebody asked, is Israel at war? I wouldn't say it's at war. When you have the, people from Gaza shooting missiles in, on a daily basis going on for weeks, yeah, that's different. And then, they call it maybe a skirmish. I don't even know it's a skirmish. It's an ongoing thing. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. But you never know. It can flare up at any time for any reason. So it's an ongoing thing. I mean, some people probably call it an everlasting war, but normally you think of war, you think of two armies. You think of people, going against each other, this and that. This is not what it is. If you tell me the entire Palestinian quote unquote entity, and they are quote unquote armies fighting, okay, it's a different issue. Maybe I'd say differently. Maybe I'd have to classify, what's considered really war or not. This happens. It's unfortunate. There's plenty of time it's quiet and nothing happens. But guess what? This can flare up at any time. 100% it can flare up at any time. So if it goes on for longer, maybe they'll, say, oh, it's another intifada. I don't know. That's how long it goes. What happens. But it's not that type of thing where you're going into cities and burning down the city. They have maneuvers, they go in, try and get terrorists and different things, okay? That they're allowed to do. They're trying to mitigate, trying to stop terrorism. That's how you do it. And then they're going to say, oh, you did this, you took out two of our people, so now we're going to attack. But they're the ones causing it. They're the ones starting. They're going to say, but you're an occupier. This is apartheid. Come on. People have no idea what goes on. No idea. Arabs are living better here than any other Arab country. Any other Arab country. It's just that the ones who have the power are not the majority. I mean, I think plenty of Arabs hate Jews. I don't think there's any question. Certainly here, certainly other places. And that's the way they're indoctrinated. Right? I don't think there's any question. So that's who you're dealing with. You know who the enemy is. You know exactly who the enemy is. So sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. Can it happen anytime? Yeah. Can it flare up anytime? Yeah. Is there any way to stop it? No way to stop it. I mean, there is, but they won't do it. You got to get the weapons out of these people's hands. So what do? You got to go door to door. That's what you have to do in Gaza. That's what you have to do in these other places that are Arab strongholds. That's what you have to do, but they're never going to do it because it'll be like Vietnam. A lot of Israelis going to be killed. Not only that, a lot of these places probably booby trapped also. And using human shield. It wouldn't make sense to do it, but that's the only way to stop it. Or you just take, it's never going to happen. You take all of them, you just send them out of the country. That's it. You don't want them back. You don't want them back. That's not, Rameir Kahana, Shem Yikam Damo, God should avenge his blood. That was his idea, more than 30, 40 years ago. But obviously it's not going to happen. You're going to say, oh, that's fanatical. I don't want to live in peace. They've broken every agreement. They're not interested in peace. Totally not. So again, we're not getting political here, right? But the point is where, being Jews, if you keep the Torah, you keep the mitzvahs, that's not something you're allowed to do. That's forbidden. Do I understand the aggravation and frustration? 100%. 100%. But who says you're allowed to go and burn down their house? Burn their cars. Well, don't they do it? Don't they cause problems? Sure they do. So what gives us the right to do it? Not about turning the other cheek. It's wrong, period. Wrong. Say, but everything's fair in war. It's a different thing. This is a different thing. Someone mentions, so what about the Maccabees? Yeah, what about them? War that with the Hasmoneans. They didn't bring a lasting rulership. What happened? Right? Let's understand what happened over here. The Maccabees, they got rid of the Greeks miraculously. Totally got rid of the Greeks miraculously. Right? So what they do? They set up power. And for a couple 100 years, there was autonomy. But what happened? The Gemara says, anyone who says they come from the Hasmoneans, they come from the Maccabees, they're an Evid. They have the status of a slave. There's nobody left. They got annihilated. Why'd they get annihilated? Was it a good thing they got rid of the Greeks? Yeah. 100%. Self-sacrifice, look what they did. But what's the problem? What's the problem what they did? You know what the problem is? Problem is they didn't come from the tribe of Judah. Who can be king of Israel? Tribe of Judah. Right? At the end of the book of Genesis. The scepter is never going to leave the tribe of Judah. Kingship. They don't come from the tribe of Judah. Now, everyone will agree there was great autonomy, under the Hasmoneans. Tremendous. Right? Did a lot of good things. Major problem, though, they weren't allowed to be king. That's a pretty big problem. Because, hey, isn't God going to look the other way? Why should he look the other way? Right? It doesn't have to do with faith. It has nothing to do with faith. It had to do with the fact they weren't from the tribe of Judah. Can't reinvent the wheel. You can't say, well, we deserve to take power and autonomy. And it's going to be great for the Jewish people. True. So what? The Torah says you got to be from the tribe of Judah. From the tribe of Judah. Wait, you got to say that slipped their mind? Didn't slip their mind. These are righteous people. It's not like, oh, I forgot, I had amnesia. A little bit, I had dementia after a while. No. They thought for the greater good, God's going to look the other way. Famous story mentioned before with Rabbi Cheskel Abramsky, who was the head of the rabbinical court in London many years ago. And there was a pilot they had a connection to his, went on daily bombing raids against the Germans. So he asked him how he's doing. How is your, observance of Judaism going? So everything's good. He said, but I just want you to know, I keep Shabbos, but because of all the pressure, I smoke on Shabbos. But he said, since I'm doing such self-sacrifice, God's going to look the other way. So Cheskel Abramsky said, no, what you're doing, self-sacrifice, you get unbelievable reward. That everyone agrees, no question. But you're also desecrating Shabbos. Just because you're doing great self-sacrifice does not mean that, Shabbos desecration gonna go unnoticed. And you pay the price. One does not whitewash the other, right? That's the point. Doesn't whitewash. So if it doesn't whitewash, same thing. They didn't come from the tribe of Yehuda. They didn't come from the tribe of Judah over here. So even so, they thought for the greater good, they'll take power. What do you mean? Why the greater good? Their thoughts were in the right direction. True. They had the right idea, but you can't take power. You got to give it to the tribe of Judah. That's why. 100%. Someone asked me, I'm talking about Israel recently. Yeah. Someone there points out anger is justified. You need to pray to God and apply yourself to remit it. Yeah, it's true. We understand why there's anger. Throughout, the last, I've been here 30 years, 27 out of the last 30 years, there have been some really dark times here. Bus bombings on a daily basis, different things. Like, you don't have a right almost to defend yourself. Like, it's almost held against you. So yeah, there's anger. There's plenty of anger, true. But the anger doesn't allow you to go and destroy property. You're allowed to defend yourself. Who says you're allowed to go into a town and burn houses down? What, you're any better than them? And so when they showed a clip of these people who did it, and and then there's a picture of them praying at night, praying the evening service. How bad does that look? He said, well, we're going to pray. Let's pray now after we destroyed all this. That's going to look really bad. If you're going to pray, go somewhere else. But now everyone's filming it. And, he burned the place down. And now he's okay, we did a great job, but now let's pray. Let's thank God for what we did. Makes it 10 times worse. We're not saying they're not allowed to be angry. Totally allowed to be angry. This is horrific what's going on. At the same time, it doesn't allow you to be a vigilante. It doesn't allow you to take the law in your own hands. Regardless of whether you feel justified or not. Doesn't matter. Totally doesn't matter. Even if you say there's no dina da malchusa, there's no law of the land. Who gives you a right? Anger, I understand. That's taking it too far. Someone asked, their armed forces guarding all over the land. Right? Is that considered wartime? I don't know. It depends how you define it. Israel's got a standing army because they know who the enemy is. Right? They know who the enemy is. Yeah, they have regular patrols. They don't necessarily go into Arab places unless they have to. They absolutely have to. In some of these places, they're going into lion's den. No pun intended. One of the groups calls themselves that. Whatever it is. Would you call that war? You could. I don't know. I don't have a necessarily good definition of what war is. It's not the normal type of war. I'll tell you that. Normally it's attacking one and the other. You got armies. They don't have an army necessarily. Right? They're a ragtag bunch of people, but they're causing damage. Right? I would think wartime, you tell me like there's a siege or something. Or like what happened a couple years ago or a number of years ago. And, what happened in Gaza, sending missiles every day. All over the country. All over the country. Yeah. So, they would call that's war. I think little skirmishes here and there, is that war? According to them, it would be. According to the Arabs, nothing to talk about. They would say they're still at war. We wouldn't necessarily claim it's war. I would call it flare-ups. Wouldn't necessarily call it war, but there's a standing army for a reason. Most countries have standing armies. Right? But it's a whole mess here, what's going on. So the question is it bad? Is it worse? Is it quiet? I have a little bit different definition of what war is. Could be wrong. Could say, according to the Arabs, it's a war. Right? According to the Arabs, it's a total war. Okay? And they're going to claim that until they get rid of every single Jew in Israel. Till the Messiah comes. A war of two nations, Gog and Magog, that the prophets speak about. Something else. That's like two armies, one against the other. Two nations. They're not a nation. These people are nothing. They claim they're a group. The Israelis call them Palestinians. No such thing. No such thing. I think when Mark Twain came at the late 1880s, he came here and he said, oh, look at all these poor Palestinians. There's nobody here. Place was flat like a pancake. There's nothing here. And then students of Vilna Gaon started coming, draining the swamps. A lot of them ended up dying of disease. Where are all these people that they're claiming? Where they stole their land in East Jerusalem. They stole the land in other places. There was nobody here. Nobody here. One of the single biggest lies in the history of man. So, Thorner points out, this is it is an act of war. I'm not going to say not. Would I call it real war? I don't know. I have, maybe I have a warped definition of what war is. right? Could be. Right? But the bottom line is it's not starting from us. We're not the cause of the problem. They may say, we took over the land, they deserve it back, that's the only way to get it, right? Even the head of the Arabs, Abbas, said the same thing. They don't have any problem with an armed struggle. Hamas certainly doesn't have a problem with armed struggle. They say it belongs to them. Where does it belong to them? Forget about what the Torah says at the beginning of Genesis. Not even going to go there. They never had it. They sold land legally. And I remember Rothschild, Baron the Rothschild, bought tons of land here for Jews to settle. Who sold it to them? What do you think? He put a gun to people's head to sell it? They sold it willingly. They're like squatters here. You had Lebanese people here, you had Egyptians here, you had Jordanians here. As a collective unit, never existed in the history of man except for the Israelis. Except for the Israelis. They label them a Palestinian people, cause their own problem. But essentially, they don't exist. But someone there makes very good points. The Jews are just trying to live a normal life. No one wants to get attacked. No one's attacking them. No one's going in their cities and doing what they're doing. You don't see any drive-by shootings by Jews. You don't see it. You barely ever see even Jew-on-Jew violence. Rare. I'm not saying it can't happen. The more a person gets away from Torah, right? So they act like non-Jews. Okay. Right? But you don't see that. Vigilantism on Jews. By Jews. They, someone here points out they just want to live a normal life, right? So the leftists think you give all the land back to them and everything else, then they'll stop. No, they're not going to stop till every single Jew's not in the land. That's what they want. All the Jews should go in the ocean. That's what they want. And that's what they're being taught. Generation after generation. That's what they're being taught. Yeah, so the question is, I don't have a good answer. When would you call it a time of war? Right? So I would say, what happened a couple of years ago. You had this thing going on for 3 weeks, more, with Hamas in Gaza. That went on for 3 weeks, a month? So they finally, pummeled them, and they finally agreed to a ceasefire. After sending thousands of rockets. That's more of a flare-up. That's more than a flare-up, right? At least that's what the media would call it. That's war. Maybe that's the definition. But these things here and there, again, are the Arabs going to call it an act of war? Sure. They'll say the fact we occupied the land is called, they'll say it's occupation. So for them, that's a declaration of war. Would I call that war? No. Because we own the land. Forget about God-given. Right? Any other nation that's ever taken land belongs to them. They want it. Every nation like that. They have to give land back. Nobody. Israel got this land that they have, a good chunk of it, we call the West Bank. Where'd they get it from? Defensive war. Total defensive war. They were attacked. And they took it over. And they put people in these places. Up north, in the middle of the country. They I can't do that. It's an act of war. Right? What are you going to do? Land doesn't belong to you. Can't annex it. They won the war. For goodness sakes, they won the war. Why can't they annex it? Belongs to them. People live there. A lot of people live there. Why can't you? Because it's a double standard. It's a total double standard. So, so in such a case, if you're going to give that land back what they want from 67, that's indefensible. In like four different ways, it's indispensable. It's like the heart of the country. And the reason they end up taking over because they kept getting attacked, by different groups. So eventually they took it over. So whoever gives land back in a defensive war? Nobody. Nobody. The last time you ever saw even a transfer of population during, quote unquote, during war was in the 70s between Pakistan and India. That's it. Someone had a defensive war. They got land. They gave it back. I don't know. Maybe got the Falklands. I don't know. Yeah, maybe a few things here and there. Never. The defensive war. Now everyone's complaining. Land doesn't belong to you. What? Why should they give it back? It makes sense they should give it back. I would say, you want to get it, take it back. Get all your forces, find other people, get mercenaries, take it back. And if you can't take it back, it doesn't belong to you. So this land, quote unquote, is disputes, right? It's in disputes, what we call the territory. But see, it's not just about that. Any land outside the old city, they're going to claim it's theirs. That we took it. What if we bought it legally? So a lot of the land we bought legally. Legally. So they don't have any claims. They sold it. So what are you supposed to do? They ended up selling it. Okay. Other land you got because you were attacked. Who said you have to give it back? It's never happened in the history of man. Never happens. Nobody gives the land back that they win, that they had to attack and get. Nobody. It's still debatable. It's still disputed. They got condemned, not surprising, because they agreed to put, another 200 units, building units or whatever, in quote unquote occupied territory. It's their land. They won the land. They won the war. It's their land. They don't have a right to settle it. Why don't they have a right to settle it? That's what Ariel Sharon was doing before he became prime minister. They made him the minister of housing. Made him the housing minister. So what did he do? Put thousands of people in these places. Down south, up north. Ended up giving back some of it because of what happened in Gush Katif. Didn't I say it wasn't getting political? So what happened? That's their land. They can't build it. Why can't they build it? Where I live, they'll claim it's occupied territory. You know how many people live here? More than 70,000 people. Where are we going to go? Gush Katif people are still paying, mortgages on property they don't own. That's insanity. The government threw them out, and they were paying money on things they didn't own. So if you allow them to go somewhere and they're building up the land, how can you take it back? But you have places up north in different places. Why are they going to give it back? Why in the world they give it back? So I would say, let them take it back. They can't take it back. It's ours. They should annex it. Belongs to us. Forget about biblical Israel and what's going to happen when the Messiah comes and how much of the land, in Iraq and Iran and these other places going to be part of Greater Israel. That's a different issue. We're talking about land they won. They won fair and square. They have to return it. Never happened. Never happened in the history of man. So that's one of the biggest lies out there. It's still disputed. I don't know. It's no dispute. We took the land. No dispute. In other nations took all their land. There's a dispute. Yeah, maybe in Kashmir, right? With India and Pakistan. In certain areas, maybe there's a dispute here and there. This is a dispute? What is a dispute? Why don't we own the land? Right? And that's what the media is going to tell you. But a lot of places, it's built up. You got tens of thousands of people legally there. You gonna uproot them? I mean, government could do anything. I wouldn't call it a democracy. If they wanted to, very hard for me to imagine. But if they wanted to, could they uproot 70,000 people? They could. Where are they going to put them? Good question. Right? But could they in theory? Yeah. Rabbi would say, don't trust a Zionist. You never trust a Zionist. So I said 70,000 people. He said, repeat after what I just said. You never trust a Zionist. They could give the land back. Is it probable? I wouldn't bet on it. It's a lot of people to uproot. It's not 7,000 people in Gush Katif. 70,000 people. This place is growing like you can't imagine. So if we have a right to the land, we won the war, it's ours. They can claim what they want. Not disputed. See what happens when the Messiah comes. But, one of the things they claim, the Arabs claim is, we want to have discussion about a Palestinian state, quote unquote. They want to go back to the 67 borders. Take a look at an Israeli map and what's quote unquote the West Bank. That's like the heart of the country. You give that back, that's suicide. I don't care how great your army is. That's suicide on 4 sides. It's practically indefensible, whether they have nuclear weapons or not. Practically indefensible. Not only that, they want the right of return. They want everyone from Jordan who had to flee or whatever to come back. It's like millions of people. So what happens? You attack, you lost. That's it. You have a right back to the land? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Talking about millions of people. Going to make a claim to land, into homes that they had and they had to flee. Okay, you lost. You lost, the war's over. You don't get any claims back. It never happens. Except for Israel. Except for Israel. And that war they fought, by the way, was not a war of aggression. It was a war they got attacked. Give it back. I saw a great cartoon many, many years ago when America was putting pressure for Israel to give land back. They said, first of all, you have to give California, Arizona, New Mexico and Texas, you got to give back to the Mexicans. Second of all, you got to give the state of Florida, might not be a bad idea, give the state of Florida back to the Spanish. Then you have to give all the land you stole from the Indians. So then he said, so according to the cartoon, when you do all that, then we'll be ready to talk peace. Right? It's double standard, totally double standard. Louisiana Purchase, the heart of the Midwest that America bought. Okay, that's legal. They bought it. In the other land, they got rid of these other countries. Right? They call it the Manifest Destiny. They got rid of Spain, France, the Mexico. They're going to give the land back? Never. Never. Ever. They're never going to give it back. They're going to expect us in a defensive war. This is not a war of aggression. A defensive war to give land back? That's insane. It's insane. So I said I'm not getting political. I'm just pointing out. They don't have a claim. If it doesn't give them the rights, doesn't give anyone the right to go in their own cities and burn it down. That's the point. Even if you want to tell me it's war, so what? That gives you a right to go in their cities and burn them down? Yeah, you want to destroy them and get rid of them. Yeah, they're not going to burn the whole city down. Not going to happen. Too much, way too much international pressure. But who gives them a right? No, they don't have a right. They have no right over you. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Someone points out like the enemies of Israel provoking a reaction. Wow. Well, they have to do something, right? They're gonna have to do something over here, right, to stop what's going on. And I'll tell you from a Torah perspective, how does it stop? You know how it stops? God stops it. Because really, it's very hard to stop. I'm not going to say impossible, very hard to stop. So it's a warning to us. We're supposed to learn from this. We're supposed to learn. We're going to be better. These things would happen if the Jewish people would do what they need to do, in a better way, spiritually. The wake-up call, sure. The total wake-up call. But again, it's not always like this. People think it's like the Wild West. Can't walk on the streets. When I can go out of my house 11 o'clock at night, go anywhere where I live, not a problem. Not a problem. Right? You're going to see like a big Hasidic guy going to attack me? I don't think so. Going to get mugged? No. No crime. I mean, you got to worry about the Arabs, but okay. But there's no other crime. And even if there is crime, who commits it? Most of the time, it's the Arabs. Right? There are 2,000 Arab workers work where I live. All kinds of different stores and different things. So if there's any damage, 99% of the time it's them. I'm not saying 100%, I'm not going to say 100%. Not saying there are not other issues. Relatively speaking, in all these places amongst Jews, religious Jews, you don't have any problems. Go out at night, not an issue at all. Not an issue. Right? Go to any city in the world, late at night. Good luck. Good luck. What's going on out there? Well, people think here, oh, it's like the Wild West. Okay, there are things that happen. I'm not disagreeing. There are things that happen. Right? But, the odds of a person, God forbid, getting in a car accident are much greater. 10 times greater. 10 times greater than this. But, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. It doesn't matter. But much more dangerous to be in a car here than anywhere else. Someone asks, were the Nabateans Arabs? I don't know. Were they? Not sure. Not sure if they were Arabs or not. But, let's just keep in mind, you had the Ottomans here, right? Yeah, the Ottomans, you had the Turks, you had the British, you had all the Crusades going on. The Ramban, Nachmanides came. There was like nobody here. He couldn't even find 10 Jews just about to make a minyan when he was here. The year, Ramban is the 12th century, right? 1100 or 1000, 1100, whatever it was. There's nobody here. So even if there were Arabs, they were like squatters. Not like they had a whole nation, right? That's a myth. It's a huge myth, that everyone perpetuates. They say the same thing in the media. It's a myth. It's totally not true. 100% not true. One of the biggest lies. Like I said, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, Mark Twain came, the late 1880s. Nothing here, zero. Place was flattened exactly like the prophets say. Flattened over like a pancake. There's nothing here. Someone there points out, very good. Canada and the U.S. have a dispute, land dispute. Okay. Somewhere off the coast of Maine. Okay. There are other disputes, but my point was, I should have made it clear. My point was, if you look at the world in general, I don't think there's any greater dispute in the world between two nations, quote unquote, than the dispute between the Jews and the Arabs. I don't call the Arabs a nation. They're not a nation. But all these other disputes, you're right. There are maritime disputes in the Arctic and Pacific. Okay. Yeah, that flares up every so often. China wants to flex its might and other things. Okay. Right? I don't think it gets as much press at all. Not even close. Not even close to what goes on here. And it's amazing Israel gets any press at all. Israel's only the size of the state in New Jersey. It's very small. And Israel's always in the news. Not only always in the news, Israel's been condemned by the UN, the Holy UN, more than any other nation combined. Think about it. Israel, years ago, was 1/1000th of the world's population. Probably more than that now. It's probably even less. Right? You want to tell me that nation, the only democracy in the Middle East, deserves to be condemned more than anyone else, more than Iran, more than Iraq, more than any of these other rogue countries, China, any of these other places, that kill people on a daily basis? Not even close. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. Boggles the mind. But the world revolves around the Jews. Right? We are the chosen nation, for better or for worse. Everything revolves around us. We do the right thing, everything's good. We do the wrong thing, it's chaos. Right? Jews have made an imprint everywhere they've been. In Europe, in the States, South America, everywhere. Jews have made imprints. But Israel, it's been a struggle from the very beginning. And you have people coming here trying to take the land. You had all the Crusades and different things. So it's pretty amazing. a tiny country in the desert, that's, everyone wants to condemn, everyone wants to say things, everyone, it's crazy that anyone should care about such a place. But as the anti-Semites would say, and self-hating Jews would say the same thing, we run the world, right? We're in charge in different ways. But who would care? Such a small area. If you went from the top to the bottom, you went to you went to the if you go to the border of Lebanon, up Rosh Nikra, up north, and you would drive all the way down to Eilat, or at least you would go as far as where, at least where it's considered part of Israel. 6 hours. Tops. Probably do it in less. Not that big. Not that big at all. The fact that it makes so much noise in the world, and so much news, mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Someone there points out, the Kashmir dispute might be second. Okay. Probably. I would probably agree with that. That's probably up there. But again, it's a very distant second. It's like way behind. It comes up in the news here and there, in world news. I don't think it's anywhere. I'm not saying this is a good thing per se, but I don't think it's anywhere close. Anywhere close. Israel's in the news all the time. All the time. Sometimes for good things, sometimes for bad things, probably a lot of times, in a negative way. Someone asked, is something that Noahides can do to help Jews when the nations are attacking Jews? Well, a lot of it has to do with, if we're not doing the right thing, right, God's going to stick the nations against us. Right? We say in the second paragraph of the Shema every day, we say, if we do the right thing, God's going to give us food, water, going to take care of all our needs. If we do the wrong thing, it's going to be payback. Right? So my Rebbe says, what's worse is not, we have to worry what's going on in Iran and other places. We have to worry about our Jews in the lands who don't do what we're supposed to do. You got Tel Aviv, the gay cap of the world. That's certainly not going to bode well for the Jews here or other places. Right? So, things like that could, God forbid, get the Jews spit out of the land. Hard to imagine, but that's one of the things God detests the most, is immorality. So, God's will, not that I'll speak for God here, but his will is we should do what he says. That's his will. He wants us to go in the right path. And if we don't go in the right path, God's not going to punish us for no reason. But he wants us to do the right thing. And if we don't do the right thing, there's payback. So yeah, in a certain sense, it is God's will. The question is, who is he going to use to get to the Jewish people? People have free will, can use the Arabs, can use the blacks, can use Hispanics, can use Europe, can use anybody as messengers. But what does it show? It shows God doesn't want us to sin. God doesn't even want non-Jews to sin. But if we do, and they do, there's payback. There's definite payback. Sometimes it'll be greater, sometimes it'll be worse. But that's the connection. That's the strong connection we have to God. Right? You gotta live up to the standard God wants. And if you fail, and you fail miserably in some ways, it's going to be serious payback. If you look at the prophets, right, and you look at the book of Kings, you look at the book of Judges, Joshua, there's a clear pattern. The pattern is when the Jews do God's will, Jews are at the top. When God forbid Jews don't do God's will, they're all the way at the bottom. There's nothing in between. Either we're doing what we should be doing or we're totally in the bottom. So there are good things going on, religious Jewish communities expanding leaps and bounds, tremendously good things going on. At the same time, you got 90% of the Jewish people don't know Aleph Beis. So you got two things going on in opposite directions. So at the end of the day, it's payback. How is it going to be paid back? God's got a lot of messengers, tremendous amount of messengers, and God can use them to do whatever He wants. He can use them to do whatever He wants, and sometimes it's going to look kind of nasty. You got the Holocaust, 6 million Jews butchered, murdered, gassed, burnt. Absolutely horrific. You can say, wow, what a covenant. What a covenant. You know what? What's the answer? So the answer is we really don't know, but the partial answer is that the closer you are to the king, the greater the payback. In other words, if you were a water carrier, the ball boy, God's not, the king's not going to care. But if you're second in command and you mess up, even if you mess up by mistake, the repercussions are much greater. So God chose us. We chose Him. And if we're not upholding what we should do, the payback. Is that going to be payback? Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes it can be catastrophic. And we see almost in every country been expulsions. Jews got too close, whatever, God threw them out. England, Spain, France, all these places. Jews got thrown out. It's been a very depressing Jewish history if you look at it in many ways. I think we've been down more than we've been up, and we shouldn't even be here. If you look at Jewish history, by the time Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed the Second Temple, there shouldn't be anything left. There should be nothing left of the Jewish people. It's absolutely miraculous. Right? Then they sort of came back. Then you had the Chmielnicki disaster in the 1600s. Tens of thousands of Jews killed, murdered, pillaged. You had the Holocaust. You had expulsions. Jews should not be in existence at all. One of the proofs that, there has to be a God in the world, because that doesn't make sense. The Jewish people's survival doesn't make sense. Does not make any logical sense. So, what can non-Jews do? They can pray. They can say Psalms, right? They can pray for the sake of the Jewish people. 100%. And we need to be better. Everybody needs to be better. Especially Jewish people. Can a Noahide be righteous with willpower? Anybody can be righteous with willpower. But you got to work hard. Righteousness does not come easy. Read the book Path of the Just. See how hard it is. See how hard it is to be a chassid, to be a righteous person. Very hard. Very, very hard. Right? But can a person do it? Sure. Doesn't matter where they came from. Doesn't matter what their background is. Person has that ability. God going to lay out the red carpet, make it easy? No. Even Kodesh not going to make it easy. For sure not. But can a person do it? Sure. Going to take a lot of self-sacrifice. But it can be done. Someone asks, am I taking donations specifically for Purim? I could. Go to my webpage, Orthodox Conversion, orthodoxconversion.com. Anyone who wants to give to needy families, you can send it to me. I can give it out. Somebody asks, one second. Are those Jews that do gay parades in Tel Aviv, or are they non-Jews? No, most of them, God forbid, they're Jews. Right? If they're non-Jews, it's also bad. They're also liable for death penalty. It's immorality. Right? It's one of the Noahide laws. But for argument's sake, they're mostly Jews. Right? If not, I'm not going to say all of them, but probably a lot of them. Right? Definitely a lot of them. That's bad. That is definitely bad. One of the reasons Sodom was destroyed, not only the terrible things they did, but it was right in God's backyard. It was right in God's backyard. So if it's right in God's backyard, that's what my Rebbe says. He's only worried about people who sin in Israel. This is pretty bad. And if it's quote unquote the gay capital of the world, or one of them Tel Aviv is part of Israel. Tel Aviv is holier than New York. It's holier than Lakewood, New Jersey. It's holier than any other religious community in the world. It's part of Israel. The land is holy. But the end of the book of Leviticus says, my language, chump don't want it, chump don't get it. You know what that means? That means if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we can get thrown out of the land. We can get spit out of the land. What do you think? God gave the Jewish people the land and we came back in 2,000 years to have, to have tens of thousands of gay people in Tel Aviv? I don't think so. He gave us the land, the Torah says, to make us holy, to differentiate us between us and the non-Jews. That's why he gave us the land, not to eat treif, not to eat non-kosher, wherever you are, as a Jew. Not at all. So if I were God, put on my funny glasses, my funny mustache, and look down and say, wow, yeah, Tel Aviv, part of Israel, look what's going on there. No different than Sodom and Gomorrah. No different. Payback could be, I shouldn't even open my mouth. I'm not going to open my mouth. Payback could be totally severe. But you're going to say they don't know any better, this, that. Yeah, but there are certain things, even if you don't know any better, you're still liable at a high level. Tremendously high level. Could there be total destruction? Again, who knows? Depends how ticked off God gets. But if it's in his own backyard, well, isn't it bad if they do it, other places? Sure. They did it in New York. They did it in France. They did it in South Africa. Wouldn't it be bad? Sure. But you're doing it in God's backyard, 10 times worse. 10 times worse. I saw a picture, pretty pathetic. I mean, shouldn't laugh. It's pretty pathetic. You have a protester, a woman, keep this clean, at the Western Wall, protesting like, we've occupied, the ultra-Orthodox occupied it, want to have, mixed groups at the Western Wall dressed in a bikini, for goodness sakes. For goodness sakes. Person doesn't know anything. Okay. You think God's going to take light of that? Isn't that a provocation? It's the holiest place in the world. Everyone agrees it's the holy place in the world. The Western Wall, that was the outer wall of the Beis Hamikdash of the temple. And some moron comes dressed up like they're going to a nightclub or the beach, the holiest place in the world. Could be serious payback for such a thing. Isn't that a provocation? Sure, it's a provocation, but I'm just talking about things that God detests. One of them, the major thing is immorality. Where do we see it from? We see what happened with Pinchas. And the Midianites, 24,000 Jews were killed because of what happened with the Midianites. Because they went after the women of Midian. 24,000. All this is going on in God's backyard. I'm not saying it's not happening in other places either. But when it happens in the holiest place in the world, God looks down and is like, wow, so proud. Jerusalem I could be prouder of. Plenty of people learning, a lot of good things going on, different places. God can be very proud. Looks at Tel Aviv, looks at Haifa, looks at Tiberias, like all these cities. A lot of terrible things going on in these cities. Where the secular people are. Terrible things. So it's a lot of good, but you know what? It's brought down that where the greatest amount of holiness is, you have the greatest amount of impurity also. Because the evil inclination can, is going to say, what, so much Torah? No. We need promiscuity. We need the gays. We need all this to offset it. Isn't that going to stop the Messiah from coming? Sure. It's going to, I'm not going to say it's offsetting, but it's going to make things worse. As we always say, things seemingly have to get worse before they get better. Listen, I hope everything dies down. Praying that there should be peace, and nobody wants anyone to die. But we're not we're not aggravating the situation. They're throwing kids in the line of fire. They're attacking. It's an unprovocational attack. No one's attacking them, but that's what they do because they have to perpetuate this war so they can get their state. So it says we keep reforming conservative, but not being actively gay. We don't need them either. They're not any better. Whatever they do, uprooting the Torah, changing the Torah, I agree. There are things that are worse, right? Torah prohibition, being homosexual, Torah prohibition, death penalty. No different than Shabbos desecration. If there would be a temple in Jerusalem, no question. But why is it so bad? Why is it so bad? So you're right, God hates immorality, but I'll take it one step further. Not only does God hate immorality, but here it's being flaunted. Don't like you see thieves, pedophiles, I don't know. And people habitually speak Lashon Hara. You don't see them, dancing in the streets and waving their flags, showing what they do. That's a totally different thing. Okay, maybe they're embarrassed what they do. Whatever the case is, not only are they not embarrassed, this is where it gets bad. It gets dicey, as the English would say. This is where it really gets bad. They're sitting there flaunting, saying there's not only is nothing wrong with it, but they're flaunting it. I've never seen such a thing in the history of man. I'm not saying, the Greeks were any better, and the Romans were any better. They're also pretty bad. Tremendously bad. But prancing around in the street and bragging about what you do, especially if, God forbid, someone's an Orthodox Jew. I know somebody I went to yeshiva with. He's a rabbi, one Orthodox rabbi. He's got a son that's gay. Okay, so that means you have to go to a gay parade and say it's okay? Can't say it's okay. You cannot say it's okay. Cannot condone it. Right? But I'm just pointing out. But if you're going to flaunt it, you're going to flaunt it in God's face in his own backyard. It's a good thing I'm not God over here. What does zap people left and right? I wouldn't have any tolerance. None. God has compassion somehow. Or is, God forbid, things, being planned in a majorly negative way. But that's horrific. That is absolutely horrific. Bragging about it, flaunting it. Yeah. And God's, one thing you're doing it somewhere else. You're doing it in God's, that's also bad. But you're doing it in God's backyard. You're doing it in front of his face, flipping him the proverbial, bird over here. You're giving him the finger in his face in his own backyard. It's a good thing I'm not God. I would have zero tolerance. Zero. I wouldn't have any compassion. None. This is what you do. I give you life. I give you food. I take care of your needs. And this is how you thank me? Could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. It's, what it does somewhere points out very true. It brings shame to everyone else, right? That's what it makes us look 10 times worse. 10 times worse. This is the Jewish people. They're the chosen nation. Yeah. I hang pictures of holy rabbis. Sure. Not a problem. Not a problem. Levi and Shimon retaliate against the whole city. Right. But why did the whole city deserve to die? I just spoke about this in my last class on for Noahide nations, on the Noahide laws. Comes under the category of dinim, law courts. Everybody knew what Shem did. What Shem did to Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov Avinu. Nobody said anything. Nobody judged him. So the whole city deserved to get destroyed, deserved to get uprooted because they didn't take him to court. They should have taken him to court. You can tell me, but he's a prince and they were afraid in it. You need law courts. So the main reason that whole place got destroyed is because they didn't have law courts. They didn't take him to din. They didn't take him to judgment. So the whole place deserved to get uprooted. Totally. All right, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Them going into a city, burning down places, well, that has nothing to do with dinim. That has nothing to do with law courts. That's just taking revenge. I'm not saying they don't have a right to be angry. No question. They have a right to be angry. Right? But that has nothing to do with the law courts. And that has nothing to do with them, deserving death penalty. Because a lot of they're not killing people. Right? They kill people going to jail. Right? But if all these people are Muslim, I'm not saying what they're doing is right. Right? But, they believe in one God, that's better. But murder's murder. They're not getting away with that. One of the Noahide laws. That doesn't give you the right to burn the whole place down. Right? Here, they had an obligation to uproot the city, totally destroy it because there weren't law courts. And they should have taken them they should have taken them to court. Because they did it, the whole city gets uprooted. That's the point. They didn't just take retaliation for taking retaliation. Right? Same thing by Pinchas. Oh, what Pinchas did, he shish kebab. Right? He killed Zimri and Cosby Batsur while they're doing the jitterbug. Killed, or keep this clean. How's he allowed to do it? What if Zimri would have killed him? There are a lot of miracles, the Gemara says, that Pinchas wasn't killed. He could have been, and Zimri would have had a right to kill him. Why? He's got the status of a rodef, of a pursuer. But he had to do it 100% for the sake of heaven. And because he had to do it for the sake of heaven, if he had one tinge, one little part of him said, I don't like Zimri because of whatever, he would have been forbidden to do. People say, see, Pinchas is a vigilante. No. How do we know it wasn't a vigilante? Very simple. Because what did Pinchas do? Pinchas first, before he did anything, he asked Moshe Rabbeinu, what's the halacha? He said, Rebbe, what's the halacha in such a case? Where a Jew's having relations with a non-Jew in public, scumbag. What's this? In public, I don't care if he's prince of the tribe. Guy's slime. What he's doing. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't remember. He didn't remember what the halacha was. So Pinchas said, I remember. And he killed him. Right? But if he would have been killed first, if Zimri would have defended himself and killed him, then Pinchas would have deserved to die. A lot of miracles the Talmud says happen, but he's not a vigilante. A vigilante acts because they act. They don't act when they ask rabbinic authority. Right? Which is another thing, as my Rebbe says. We said before, you want to protest? You're not allowed to destroy property. You see how the Orthodox Jews destroying property? Did they ask their rabbis if they could do it? Certainly not. Say, how do you know? Because these people don't. These people are rabble rousers. They like to go to demonstrations and stir up trouble. That's what they are. That's who they are. Right? Do they ask rabbinic authority what to do? No. Certainly not. A woman walks immodestly in a religious neighborhood. Not the provocation. Just wasn't dressed appropriately. Some Orthodox Jew throws acid in her face. They say, where's his rabbinic authority? I said, you think he asked a rabbi if he's allowed to throw acid in someone's face and not dress it properly? No. He didn't have a rabbinic authority to ask. He just acted. Throw acid in someone's face? You're right. It's a pretty bad thing what the person did. They weren't dressed appropriately. Okay. There are other ways to handle the situation. You don't throw acid in someone's face. A vigilante does what they want. That's why they call them a vigilante. They don't ask questions. They don't ask moral questions. Pinchas was not a vigilante, right? Watch my video on my YouTube channel at Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on Parshas Pinchas, right? Is Pinchas a vigilante, right? Something like that. That was the title. He's not a vigilante. First thing he did is he asked Moshe Rabbeinu what to do. That's not the same thing as just going acting and taking revenge. And who says taking revenge is okay? The Torah says it's forbidden. The Torah prohibition. Even if someone got you angry, right? I'll give an example. It happened to me. I was talking to my parents once on the phone, pay phone, and someone said, you've been on the phone too long. They hung up the phone. Not only they hung up the phone, who they call? I was standing right in front of a pizza store. This guy calls up, the owner of the pizza says, hey, my family's hungry. We want pizza. Right? So this person had to hang up the phone on me because he's hungry for pizza. Okay, now I go back to learn. This guy comes in, let's say it didn't happen. But let's say he comes in, the study on, oh, by the way, can I borrow your pen? Now I have a pen, let's say that works. I'm not worried he's going to lose it. And I say, you want to borrow my pen? After what you just did? I'm not giving you my pen. That's a Torah prohibition. That's a Torah prohibition of taking revenge. Right? Or if you need to borrow someone's lawnmower and they say, no, you can't borrow it. You get a lawnmower and they come back and ask you for your lawnmower. You can't say, I'm not lending you my lawnmower because you don't lend me yours. Now, you could have really used it. Your backyard was like a jungle. Your front yard is like a jungle. The guy didn't want to lend it to you for whatever reason. Didn't have a good reason. That's revenge. You say, isn't that annoying? Yeah, it is. But guess what? The Torah prohibition, take revenge. Right? So this guy, thank God, didn't happen. I'm just talking in theory. Yeah, if this guy would have come in and said, can I borrow your pen? Can I borrow your book or whatever? I have to give it to him, no questions asked, unless I think he's really going to damage it or whatever. He's got a track record. But if the guy doesn't have a track record, I have to give it to him willingly with a smile. You say, how can a person do that? What are we supposed to be, angels? Yeah. What God wants. He wants us to be like angels. He wants us to keep his Torah to the highest level. Now, didn't what the person do? Isn't that annoying? Yeah. Does that make me angry? Sure. Totally pathetic thing to do. Tell me it's an emergency or whatever. He calls up the owner of the pizza, says, hey, we're hungry, open the store. So you hang up on the phone on someone? Wait, you lose your mind because you're hungry? Maybe. Should judge them positively. Maybe they were starving, right? It was a dangerous situation, maybe. But at the Torah prohibition if I were taking revenge. You don't have to take revenge. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, right? So, I agree. These things going on are horrific. It doesn't give you the right to pummel somebody or to burn their house down. I understand why someone would want to. Makes perfect sense. I don't think anyone would disagree. I mean, except the leftists. But regardless, no one's going to disagree. You're still not allowed to do it. It's forbidden. Totally forbidden. And someone points out Robin who was a vigilante. Okay. Right? Steal from the rich, give to the poor. Yeah. How can righteous Jews rebuke those immodest Jews? Well, if someone walks in front of you, let me ask you. Someone walks in front of you. Yeah, I've had this a number of times. I go up north, I'm waiting for a bus, let's say the bus station. Someone walks by. Now, not that you're looking, right? Someone walks by totally immodest. Right? You're right. You shouldn't be looking. I agree. Well, let's say someone walked by, just, you were glancing in that direction anyway. Okay. Right? You shouldn't have been looking. True. These are the same righteous people say if a woman's drowning, you can't save her. Why not? Because you can't touch her. Come on. Pikuach nefesh. Do whatever you can to save someone if you can. Oh, but I can't, I can't touch you. You're right. You have to give up your life if I touch you. You're right, but you're saving a life. It's okay. And if someone's in cardiac arrest, the first person that comes is a woman. It's gonna, it's an expert in CPR. Say, nope, sorry, can't do it. I can't touch another man. Pikuach nefesh. Totally pikuach nefesh. Someone points out to put your hands over your eyes. True, right? Summertime in most places. The only place you can look is down, the way people are dressed, right? But yeah, 100%. 100%. Someone asked, situation with pikuach nefesh, is a Jew allowed to consume a non-kosher medicine? Depends. If it's non-kosher, yes. If it's what's it called? If it's idolatry, let's say it was a wafer. Somehow you're going to get saved by this holy wafer. That wafer was used for idolatry. No, then you can't. If it's something that's forbidden to get benefit from, you can't use it to even save your life. But something, let's say, is treif, you can get benefit from. You can't do business with it, but I can get benefit from it. Let's say the only way to save a person's life is give him a cheeseburger. No, can't give it to him. Why? Can't eat it. Why? Pikuach nefesh. Right? Sorry, it's forbidden. It's forbidden to get benefit from. Someone had an ulcer, let's say. And they're having an attack. They can eat anything. Because it's if you have no choice, you have no choice. Right? If it's something that's not forbidden to get benefit from, if it's not forbidden to get benefit from, then that's definitely better. That's definitely better. And what if the only way to save them is through idolatry? Okay, yeah, you shouldn't have done it, but if there's no other way, right? Then I guess you could say, you really have to give up your life, right? There are things you have to give up your life for. But if it's something that's treif, you can get benefit from it. Definitely get benefit from it. Someone points out, yeah, medicine, vitamins, kosher vitamins go up in price. Yeah. Yeah, there's an old Talmudic dictum. It's called mitzvahs cost geld. Right? Mitzvahs cost money. Kosher food. You can buy a butterball turkey, not kosher, 33 cents a pound. Maybe it's higher now. A little bit of inflation. Okay, let's say 99 cents a pound. So how much would you pay, if it's kosher? 10 times the price. 10 times the price. What it is. Passover, it's more. Everything's triple the price. That's what it is. Someone asks, let me see. We're not supposed to have hatred in our hearts. It says righteous people would hate evil people. Yeah, someone who's evil, you can hate. You can hate what they do, but you can't hate a Jew in your heart. You can hate what they do. But even evil people, depends. Depends how evil they are. But evil people, it says, yeah. There's a time to hate. King David says, there are people that hate you that I hate. People that love you, I love. The people that hate you, I fight against. And the people that love you, I love. So King David says there are people you're allowed to hate that fight against God. Those you're allowed to hate. Right? But the Torah says, I can't hate your brother in your heart. So how do you reconcile it? You hate what they do, not necessarily who they are. Right? In other words, you can hate someone for the bad things they do. And they spit against, they spit in God's face. That you can hate the act, right? What's the proof? By homosexual. It says the act is an abomination. It doesn't say the person. Right? Person's not an abomination. It's the act that's an abomination. So you can hate the act, not the person. But yeah, they're evil people. They're evil people that you're allowed to hate. It sounds like a contradiction. Right? You see that Mordechai kicks Haman, when he's getting on the coach, to get on the horse and be pranced around. So Haman says, hey, you're not allowed to, be happy at the downfall of your enemies. So Mordechai looks down at him and kicks him again. He says, yeah, but that doesn't apply to Amalek. By certain nations, it doesn't apply. You're allowed to hate them, you're allowed to abuse them. Right? The Gemara, though, in Megillah says that, when things are going well with people, don't start up with them. You don't start up with them. Right? So, we don't want to start up with them in general. And that I mentioned before. From Meir Kahana, of blessed memory, Shem Yikam Damo, God should avenge his blood. So a lot of the rabbis were against it. They didn't disagree with what he said, per se. They disagreed with what he did. He started up with the nations. That we don't do. We don't start up with the nations. Right? But we pray every day, God should take care of our enemies. God hates the enemies of him. God hates the enemies of Jewish people. So we also do. But what if the enemy of the Jewish people is a Jew? I can hate a non-Jew. What about a Jew? Can I hate a Jew? That's a problem. Right? It's a problem because, again, you're not allowed to hate a Jew in your heart. You can hate what they do. But not necessarily they themselves. Someone asked, will there be a time in the time in the end when Hashem starts putting people in line? The only time, for better or for worse, that all this stuff is going to stop, it's only going to get worse, I think. I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but only looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that is when the Messiah comes. Once the Messiah comes, then, it's going to be a major bloodbath. A lot of people are going to die. Some will survive. And at the end of the day, that's going to bring peace when the Messiah comes. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what can we do to end all this? We have to be the best Jews or JITs, Jews in training, or non-Jews we can be. We have to, we have to learn more Torah. We have to be better in our character traits, right? And hopefully that has an effect on others, but we ourselves have to be better. We ourselves have to take on more to try and be better. That's what we can do. That's what we can do. The Gemara says, the time of the Messiah coming, we call the birth pains of the Messiah, Chevle Mashiach. What does the Gemara say we should do? Learn a lot of Torah and do a lot of chesed, acts of loving kindness, right? So I asked Rav Yisrael Yaakov Fisher, blessed memory, Yaakov Yisrael Fisher, Yisrael Yaakov Fisher is not so a blessed memory. Diane Fisher, as he was known. I asked him this question. He was one of the Torah giants of last generation. And I asked him this question: what are we supposed to do to save ourselves in this time period? Time period before the Messiah comes. So he says, the Gemara says, Torah and Chesed. Learn a lot of Torah and do acts of loving kindness. And I said, and? I go, anything else? He started screaming. I'm very good at that. I make people scream. He's like, what? You think I know more than the Gemara? You think I know more than the rabbis? You think I know more than the Talmud? I'm like, no, just asking. Never mind. Another question. But that's it. That's what we can do. Learn more. Do more acts of loving kindness. Help others. Be the best we can be. That's what we can do. Well, my Rebbe would say, all these things are tragic. It's true. And we got to strengthen ourselves in many ways. But you gotta still sit and learn Torah. You gotta be the best you can be. We gotta be better. That's what we have to do. You gotta let God do what he has to do. We need to do what we have to do. It's hard. Yeah, someone here mentions another young Jewish soldier murdered. Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. Because someone here points out the Arabs are taught to hate murder. Yeah. It's not like the textbooks have changed over the years. They're bringing up generation of people that hate Jews. That's what it is. And you can have cases, and there have been a number of cases where, let's say, an Arab worked for a Jew for many, many years, and then in the end they stab him. They kill him or try and kill him. The person gave him life, gave him money, gave him a job, years. They have this connection. He stabs him. So what does that tell you? That's who they are. That's who they are. Is it to be expected? I'm telling you, that's who they are. That's their nature. Can never trust them. Never. Will there be some that'll be, what's it called? The exception to the rule? Yeah. Not many. You can just never trust them. You never know. And I see Arabs all the time. Where I live, other places. I always look around. I always look over my shoulder. You just don't know. You don't know. But at the end of the day, God's going to take care of business. So the question is when, and we hope we survive. That's really the truth. Whatever's going to be, what do we have to work on the most in this generation? We have to work our faith and belief in God. That's what we have to work on, because a lot of things we see, we don't understand. It's very hard. Very, very hard. Is a shiksal out there premarital relationships. It's a non-Jew. So I would say, if it's not a forbidden relationship, non-Jews are also liable for death penalty for morality if it's a forbidden relationship. If it's not a forbidden relationship, according to the Torah, then they could. They'd be allowed to, right? A guy, a girl, doesn't really matter. But I would say, as a moral imperative, probably not a good idea. But there is a whole discussion, huge discussion, which I'm not going into because I'm about to finish. There's a huge discussion about even a non-Jew wasting seed, whether it's permissible or not, right? On both sides. Definitely on both, on both sides, meaning there, a lot of rabbinic authorities say it's okay. A lot of rabbinic authorities say it's not okay, right? So I've heard people say that, yeah, it's still probably not a good thing to do, right? Even, I'm talking about wasting seed. So if a person's relationship, again, if it's a permissible relationship, it's not forbidden, right? If it's premarital sex, it wouldn't be forbidden. Is it a good thing? No. Definitely would say it's not a good thing. Definitely not a good thing, because physicality always gets in the way, right? So I'll age myself. Watch the movie When Harry Met Sally. Physicality always gets in the way. Totally gets in the way. Yeah, someone here mentioned also, slander. Yeah, it's also bad. Got to work on that. Definitely have to work on that as well. Yeah, let me see. All right, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free, shoot me an email. Sorry, you can find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, whichever